Welcome to How to Become a Production SQL Database Administrator. My name is Raphael. We're going to finish the security with looking at the best practices to secure your SQL server or servers. And we're going to go through this list one by one, and then I'm going to be demonstrating a few things here. So let's start with one. Start with the physical server room where the servers are kept. Now, obviously, if you're joining a company and you're the DBA, then you want at least to be familiar with where the server room is, what kind of servers you have, and whether that server room is secure. Virtually all the time, the answer will be yes, but you want to be familiar with where it is and make sure that the physical room has sufficient security. Ensure that only selected IT staff has access, such as the network admins, system admins, and SQL DBAs. And again, when you're working for this company, most likely that will be in place, but you just want to talk to either network admin or system admin and just get a quick tour, if you will, of the server room. But most likely these two things you will most likely not do. Keep the backups not on site, but keep a copy of backups off-site. We've mentioned this, obviously, how critical it is that you not only have a local backup of all your servers, including your system databases, but those backups be replicated off-site somewhere. So this is you want to make sure that policy is being enforced. At the operating system level, you want to make sure that the service packs and critical fixes are not only applied to the SQL server as we demonstrated, but also to the Windows operating system. Now, again, you won't necessarily do this, but again, you want to coordinate with your IT staff members to make sure that is the case. Everything that I say, obviously, I've been saying this over again, you always do in a test environment first, even the upgrades of a service pack. Sometimes the service pack can be a little fussy and they can cause a little issue. So you want to make sure that these are done on test environments before you apply them to production. Just like I said, test on test server before applying to production. Disable the default admin, the built-in admin account, and I'm going to be demonstrating that in a second. Obviously, when you install SQL Server, the built-in admins are part of this SA group, so you want to disable that for security purposes, and I'll be showing you that also. Use Windows authentication modes as opposed to mixed mode, and we've discussed the security of that, why Windows authentication is more secure than mixed mode. You only want to use mixed mode if you absolutely have to with either legacy applications. But again, I highly recommend that you use that, and we'll be demonstrating that also. Use service accounts for applications and create different service accounts for each SQL service. We went over this also, so you don't want to have all eggs in one basket, meaning if you have a service account, don't apply that service account for all your service engines. Apply them for separate service accounts. So if that one service account is disabled or someone changed the password, then it doesn't propagate to the other SQL service accounts that you have. So make sure you do that also. Create service account with the least privilege. And obviously this is an important thing. We only want to apply and give the SQL service account only the necessary permissions it needs, nothing more, nothing less. So keep that in mind, meaning you don't want to create a service account and give it a system admin account, for example, or system privilege account. So any of these accounts, we want to be as minimalist as possible. Document all user permissions with the script and keep track of which user has what permission. And I'll be demonstrating that, giving you a script to show who are all connected to your database. So you want to keep a documentation of all the permissions and look at the individual users that are logged onto your server and make sure they have the appropriate permissions. So I'll be demonstrating that to you also. Disable all features via the SQL configuration manager that are not in use. And again, I'll be demonstrating that to you. So sometimes you have services like SSRS or SSIS or SSAS or the network capability. If these are turned on and you're not utilizing them on that database, you shouldn't be installing them anyway. But second of all, if you do, and if you need to, then you must disable them. And install only the required components. Don't install SSRS, SSIS, and SSAS, and so on. So I'll be talking about that also. So again, only apply the required components. And so the less surface you have for malicious attacks, the better. Disable the SA account and rename it. Very important one. We've stressed that over again in the security, and I've demonstrated that, but I'm going to demonstrate it again. Disable and change the SA account, and we'll be demonstrating that. Remove the built-in account with Windows from group. Again, I think I've already mentioned that, but I'll be demonstrating that to you. And then obviously in the previous videos, we talked about what are server roles and server database roles. Use the SQL Server roles to limit login access to databases, as shown in the previous videos. So follow that security measure. That's a very important measure that we've been talking about in managing logins and users to a limited scope. So make sure you do that. Use permissions to give only that is needed to log in. Again, determine what the user needs and only given that. If he only needs to read a specific table, then navigate your permissions to that table and just give him the select statement permission, nothing more. You should not have delete, you should not have update, and so on. So make sure this is very important. This is the whole premise of giving permissions. Hide all databases. Now, I've illustrated this before, but I'm going to illustrate to you. This is a great way to secure, because if they don't even have access, if they can't even view any of the databases, then this is a great way of securing your databases. Bottom line is you got to be proactive in your securing your database SQL. You got to look out for pitfalls. You got to look out for security breaches, and it's your responsibility as a DBA to make sure that the SQL server is correct. No individual user or no individual server role should be able to do something that he or she is not allowed to do. So you should, as a DBA, not be worried about Bob updating a table or deleting a database or any of that, because you've secured his features, and we've gone through this several times in illustrating that. So now let's go to SQL. I'm going to illustrate a few of the things that we talked about here. So let me go to my SQL. Now, obviously, the first thing is we want to disable the built-in accounts. So the first thing is run this store procedure, which I'll certainly provide for you, as I said. So if you execute this, you'll get the list of all the built-in database administrators. As you can see, these are built-in database administrators. Now, what we want to do, obviously, in a production environment is disable these or drop these. And this is the command to do it. So make sure you have adequate backups of those who can access this database. Once you drop this, make sure this is a administrator and this is a RAFAS. So make sure you have another account that can access SQL before you do anything. Very, very important. So make sure you do that. But for our purposes, I can demonstrate to you. So I can show you that now it's been dropped. Now I can verify that those groups have been dropped by this command. So highlight this, and you can see that those built-in permissions have been dropped. And again, now I'm going to add them back in. I'm going to use the sp grant and sp add role server command. So take a note of these, of how to add built-in built-in accounts. And let me just view it so I got it back. And there we go. So be careful when you do that. But again, everything that I've taught you obviously requires certainly this practice on your development side. And then obviously always read a little more than I provided for you. The other thing you always want to do is, as I said, is enable Windows authentication, which requires a restart of services. And there's two ways you can do that. Obviously, you can go to right-click on the server, Properties, Permission, Security, and obviously Server Authentication. Now, obviously, if I'm going to select this and go OK, it's going to require a restart. So you can do it through this GUI, or you can do it through this command. So now you'll notice that, let me just quickly go there. You'll notice that I think I was in mixed mode. So now I'm going to change it to authentication, Windows authentication by this command. So I'm going to run this, execute, and it is going to restart. Let me look at it to confirm. Yes, you can see it's changed, but it is going to require a restart. So right-click the server and go restart. Go yes to the server. If your SQL agent has been started automatically, then that window pops up for that, and say yes to that. So now it's, as you can see, it's restarting. And again, always do these kind of things off hours, not during production hours. That's another concept that you're going to have to bear in mind. So now that they're green, now if I look at them, you'll notice that indeed it's Windows authentication. So I'm going to do it back change it back to mixed mode. So for that, use this command right here. So I'm going to execute this. Could execute it again, and there we go. So now if I go back here and double check that excuse me, mixed mode has been checked, it has. Now obviously, again, it requires a restart. So go yes, yes, and so on. So these are the key things you want to keep very important in securing your databases. And this will help you tremendously in keeping the phones from calling you. So let's see if this starts again, which it should. Let's turn it to green, and there we go. Now, obviously, you also want the information about the logins and the user accounts. So use this quick select statement from the sys server principles. And again, provide this. So you highlight this SQL command and execute. And as you can see, these are all the types. S is built-in, SQL login, and Windows login. And you can see that I've got Robert and Peter there as accounts and so on. So this is going to be a visual view, which you should run periodically to see who's accessing your database. And this is another one also. They'll give you a little more. And there we go. And this determines whether it's being disabled or not. Obviously, one of the most important things you want to make sure is that the SA account is being disabled. So as you can see, the SA account here is enabled. It does not have that little red arrow. So now what I'm going to do is disable it using this command. So very important, make sure you have a login that is part of the system admin role before doing this, otherwise you won't be able to access it. So make sure you do this first. Create another login, add it to the system admin role, and then do this. But for our purposes, it's fine. So this is the command that allows you to do that. I'm going to change the password. And now if I go here, you'll see that it's being deactivated and now, or disabled. And now I'm going to enable it again using this command. And if I go here, you'll see it's enabled. Obviously, we've gone through this before, but I'm going to give you an illustration of how to hide all the databases, which is a great tool. So now if you look at Robert, he can access or view all these, I should say. So I'm literally going to hide them using deny view any database to public, because every login is a part of the public role. So if I would do this and execute this, you'll see that he's suddenly gone. Now obviously if I want to grant public, you'll be gone using the grant view any database to public, as we've spoken about in the previous videos. And now again, he'll be able to view them but not access them. So these are some of the ways you want to manage your security in SQL Server. It's highly recommended that you follow this practice and determine some of your own practices and talk to your other network admins and system admins and so on and determine what is the best policy for your environment. So I'll leave it there, and we'll pick it up in the next video. So my name is Raphael, and this is how to become a production SQL database administrator.